Twitter is a wonderful place. Sometimes for stupid ideas.
You are Locked On College Football, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in the greatest sport on planet Earth. Realignment, coaching carousel, the portal, and more. We've always got you covered, getting you ready for the season. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Bama Mizzou, what an interesting game that is between the Crimson Tide and the Tigers. Is Alabama in any trouble there? Maybe. We'll talk about that. And does an unbeaten Liberty team deserve to get into the college football playoff? I have some thoughts along those lines, but there was apparently a thread that went around Twitter. I'll be honest, did not pop up on my timeline, but I saw it being discussed on other shows, and then all of a sudden it did pop up on my Twitter timeline because, well, you know, they are listening. Like, anybody who thinks it's too tinfoil hat conspiracy guy to think they're listening or reading, yeah, they are. Who's they? But they are. They are doing it. There was a thread going around Twitter, apparently, that was very, very long. I'll be frank with you. I didn't read the entire thing. I got through enough of it to get the gist of it, to know that there is a suggestion that the Big 12 could lose teams over to the ACC. Oh. Do you hear that growl? The last time I heard a growl like that involuntarily come out in person was a retroactive story being told by the football coach at Southern Utah University, who I do play-by-play for, is in his post-game press conference, and his offensive coordinator had come on the headset late in the game when they had a lead, and he said, "I want to take a shot," and he said he growled. And then they took the shot and scored a touchdown, won the football game. But he didn't want to, because he's a run game guy, but so when you have that sort of involuntary reaction, it's when you really don't want to do or admit something. The only difference here is the offensive coordinator ended up being right, and there is absolutely no logic in a Big 12 school jumping over to the ACC. Nor do I think there is logic in the ACC schools jumping over to the Big 12. If Florida State and Clemson leave, they are not going to leave for the Big 12. I have been adamant along that front for a mighty long time. Financially, it does not work. You would have to get a massive renegotiation of the Big 12 media rights contract. Even then, I don't know that it would still be worth it, because Florida State and Clemson, they carry television value and cachet. They don't carry enough to make it worth paying hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, this all goes up in smoke, of course, if the legal outcome that neither I nor anyone else seems to expect happens, which is they can leave the ACC for free, then you can question the future of the league. But how many programs in the ACC would raise hundreds of millions of dollars just to leave and go over to the Big 12? Where they're getting similar or in some instances less money. Now, the money can change, of course, when Florida State and Clemson leave, and how much gets distributed, how much money you get as a kickback from playoff revenue over the course of several years. All those are fair questions to ask, but at the very least, raising a lot of money and paying a lot of money to not go and make dramatically more money, it does not compute. Well, the same is true if you put the shoe on the other foot. The Big 12 wouldn't let anybody walk away for free. Utah or TCU or any of these teams you say, oh, they could be a fit in the ACC. Now, Utah's arrangement with the Big 12 does seem to indicate, because there's a clause in there about, them not being as strong of a voting rights member, but they're not in the 99-year grant of rights and such. And, it's a home that they had to go to, not one that they wanted to go to. They would have preferred the Pac-12 stayed together. And sure, I see culturally how you can align the ACC and Utah, or even the Big Ten one day with Utah. But the ACC is where all this the thread was going and whatnot. And I'm just like, oh no, that's not going to happen. That's not. What do you gain? What have you gained in the football sense, which is what is driving most of this? Yes, presidents vote on realignment. They have academic considerations. That's the only reason I could see Utah wanting to get out of the Big 12 and go to the ACC. I mean, the only reason. Because in a football sense, there is no logic. Florida State and Clemson are not going to go to the Big 12. If they are in the Big 10 or if they are in the SEC, whose commissioners in the last couple of weeks have left the door open to add them. It'll just come down to what the timing is, what the cost is, and what each conference's respective presidents say to their commissioners. Why would you go from the Big 12 to the ACC? This is why I led today's show by saying Twitter's a great place for stupid ideas. Now, generally speaking, Twitter is a great place. Like in the past 12 months in particular, Twitter's been on fire. I mean, so many moments where the content is just chef's kiss quality entertainment. I think it really got kickstarted this year with the Scotty Scheffler incident. It has just continued to progress and stepped up its game. High quality source of entertainment. You got to be careful about threads you see over there. Yeah, there are people who are reputable. Is that the right word? Credible. I'm just going to go with that in case reputable is the wrong word. Credible reporters, established reporters who do put out good information that can circulate. I use the app for that all the time. But when you see these big random threads from nameless, faceless people, I just take a pause. Take a pause. It does not mean every thread is just 100% false all of the time. Just take it with a grain of salt. Because much like in the YouTube space, the Twitter space has plenty of people who are existing just to get your attention by suggesting things that are completely ridiculous and outlandish. There has been no indication whatsoever, nor is there any logic to the idea that Big 12 teams would leave to go to the ACC. Or that they're looking at what the legal measures could be, or how could they get out. Like, come on, guys. Come on, can we just, I understand this stuff is still in the news. I talk about it almost every day here on the show because it continues to be in the news. But can we keep it within, there's a great scene there are a lot of great scenes in the show called The Newsroom on HBO, where Mac, the executive producer of Newsnight 2.0, is looking for outside the box ideas. And then Neil suggests Bigfoot for a story. And she says, bring it back in the box. Well, let's bring it back in the box here. Florida State and Clemson are the only schools in the near future that are going to be on the move. Unless they somehow find a loophole, and it would be one heck of a loophole. The ACC should fire their attorneys, not pay them a dime, if Florida State and Clemson get to leave the league for $0. Then schools could think about going to form a much stronger league over in the Big 12 if they can do it for free and all they have to do is fight a legal battle in court. That changes the calculus. But the idea that the Big 12 could lose teams to the ACC? No. Just no. The stability isn't there. The future is uncertain. I'd rather be in the Big 12 than the ACC right now if I were anyone not named Florida State or Clemson. I would. That doesn't mean I'd be willing to leave the ACC and pay hundreds of millions of dollars to go over there. No, that doesn't make any sense. But which league would you rather be a part of? Yeah, it's the Big 12. It feels like it has found a lane, established itself, and has some long-term viability as the number 3 football league in the country. I know you'll do so anyway, but I'll encourage you, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments or hit me up on X, formerly known as Twitter. Bama, Mizzou. Even I don't even fully comprehend that as a conference game, even though Missouri's been in the SEC for a very long time. What is the upset meter for Alabama hosting Missouri? That's coming up next. But coming up right now is FanDuel. I love sports, not just college football, but it is my favorite to be sure. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime that I am in the mood. It's always available. And guess what? They have got every single thing you could want to bet for college football. Games, win totals, national title odds, conference championship odds, all sorts of great stuff. Heisman odds, it's all over there. Make the playoff, miss the playoff, you can bet it all. And this summer, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com, start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. There is still a part of me, this is how old school I am, that thinks of Missouri as a Big 12 school. They're not. They're in the SEC. Have been for a while. That's not a new realignment move. It is one of the stranger ones over the years. And has it paid off for Missouri in the football sense? I'd argue it hasn't. Word of caution to those schools venturing out into these new leagues. Like, okay, if you want to go, okay. You do whatever you like. Hope the dollars and cents are worth it because it might not be on the field. Do you know the last time Missouri beat Alabama in football? It was 1975. 1975. A game that was played in Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know what stadium that was even at. Was that at Bryant-Denny Stadium or what now has Nick Saban's name attached to it or is going to, or at least that's the last that I had heard. Yeah, it has been 5 straight wins for Missouri in the series and only 4 meetings since 2012. So they meet this year. What's the upset meter for Missouri here to go down into Tuscaloosa and get a win? Well, generally speaking, I have been told, it has been explained to me, and I've just watched it on TV, winning in Tuscaloosa is exceedingly difficult. It's not something that teams just do. Take Auburn, for instance. Auburn beats Alabama with some level of regularity. Does it happen in Tuscaloosa? Nope, not really. You play it at Jordan-Hare, you got something. Okay? Magic can happen. Games can be won. You think about the kick six. You think about what almost was last year before a 4th and 31. You think about drawing Alabama off sides with Bo Nix as a freshman and Gus Malzahn back in, I think that was 2019 when that happened. Like, these sorts of things just happen when you're playing at Auburn. But down in Alabama, it's just a little bit different. Last time I checked, they have a very good team, very good program, and they've had very good players, and they have a great home field advantage as well. So for Missouri to go in there and try to win, that's a daunting proposition. The betting line's currently set at Alabama minus 8.5. I actually think that's a little bit light. If you put a gun to my head right now and said you have to pick a side in that game, I take Alabama minus 8.5 because you look at the preseason win totals, according to our friends at FanDuel, and you say, hey, Alabama and Missouri, they're both SEC teams. They both have win totals of 9.5. You got to be careful with that. You got to be careful. You can't just look at the win totals. You got to look at the schedules as well to get an idea for how the betting markets are viewing these respective teams. So the upset meter here, I think, is about a 4.5 out of 10. 10 being this is a game that I'm actually picking to be an upset based on the point spread one way or the other. And it's got to be more than, like a 2 or 3 point spread because that's not really an upset. That's more of a coin toss, go either way game. But Missouri beating Alabama, yeah, that would be a sizable upset because the Crimson Tide, as I mentioned, have not lost to Missouri in football in a mighty long time. I don't think Vegas actually sees these teams as equal. Here's why. Alabama's schedule includes, but is not limited to, at Wisconsin in the non-conference slate, hosting Georgia. Oh man, what a day. September 28th will be in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That'll be fun. At Tennessee, hosting Missouri. At LSU, that's a 3-game stretch for Kalen DeBoer's team. He's got a bye in there before the LSU game in Baton Rouge. If that's a night game at Death Valley, oof, good luck Indeed. They have to go at Oklahoma as well before they host Auburn. Now, I don't think they're going to have too much of a problem with Auburn at home, as I mentioned, but at Oklahoma, at LSU, at Tennessee, and hosting Georgia and at Wisconsin, those games are on Alabama's schedule. I mean, that's about half the schedule. Let me just do some quick tabulating for those listening or wanting to follow along. Like, wait, how many of those games are going to be like high-profile marquee games for the Crimson Tide? That's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5, there's 6, and I'm not even counting the Iron Bowl because I'm chalking that up as a win for the Crimson Tide. So significant schedule hurdles for Alabama here. Compare that to Missouri. Their high-profile games, October 5th at Texas A&M, October 19th against Auburn. This game that I'm talking about at Alabama, hosting Oklahoma. Yeah, that's kind of it. The rest of their SEC schedule goes something like this. Vanderbilt. They've got South Carolina on the road, Mississippi State on the road, Arkansas at home to close the year. The point I'm making is that these teams have the same preseason win total, but these teams are not on the same level. Do I think Missouri's a good football team? I do. They were a really good football team last year. They could be a good one again this year. I'm more than a little curious to see how Eli Drinkwitz and company are able to handle the success and the high standard and expectation that they now have amongst their fan base there in Columbia. But certainly it's a manageable schedule. If you told me right now Missouri plays in the SEC championship game against Georgia, I'd say, well, yeah, they're going to be a 2-touchdown underdog, but I could see them getting there if they can knock off Alabama on the road. I do not have a high level of confidence in their ability to do that. And one reason is the quarterback position. Now, this is not an anti-Brady Cook segment because I've watched too much football of Brady Cook to say anything other than good things about him. He is good. He is capable. You can win a lot of football games, as Missouri did a year ago with Brady Cook as your quarterback. I felt like he was a guy that really came into his own as the season went on. I watched him early in the year against Kansas State, thought he looked good, but I saw him in a game or two later in the season, thought, man, I think that guy is really quite something. Is he top of the SEC for quarterbacks? No. But is he at the bottom? Absolutely not. Here's what I wonder, though. I know he's got Luther Burden. That's one of the best wide receivers in all of college football. Should be on the Biletnikoff Award watch list if he is not already. Can Brady Cook go toe-to-toe with the new look Jalen Milroe? Jalen Milroe has the best offensive coach and staff that he's ever had as a college quarterback. Of course, he wasn't starting and playing until this past year. It was a little bit bumpy with Tommy Rees at the helm. But what do you think Jalen Milroe can be? Because with a guy who has that sort of skill set and a head coach in Kalen DeBoer whose track record with quarterbacks, I know Ryan Grubb was often his offensive coordinator, including the past 2 years with Michael Penix. And he's now with my beloved Seahawks in the NFL, and I am very happy about that. Let's not pretend Kalen DeBoer doesn't have a big influence on the offense, lest we forget he was the OC at Indiana when Penix first burst onto the scene and had Indiana football in the COVID year playing at a top 10, 15 level nationally that year. But for Kalen DeBoer, Jalen Milroe is different than Michael Penix or Jake Haener, who have been the previous quarterbacks that he's had on the field. But DeBoer has the ability and the track record to get the most out of Jalen Milroe. Ask yourself this question. I had a friend who works in this college football media landscape text me this the other day. He said, "Why does Jalen Milroe remind me of Jalen Hurts?" And I thought, yeah, he kind of does. Like, he's run first, but if you remember, Jalen Hurts early in his career at Alabama was not a prolific passer. Heck, I didn't even think he was a prolific passer by the time he went over to Oklahoma or got to the NFL. But boy, he got a lot better. Why? Good offensive coaching. Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. Yeah, that helped. That helped. Having Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen as the offensive coordinator in Philly, that helped a lot. So you give me a guy that has starting experience, that is very talented, can make just about every throw that you need a guy to make at the college level, and he is maybe the most dynamic runner in the sport. He's less Jalen Hurts, more Lamar Jackson stylistically. Can Brady Cook keep up with that guy? That's the question I have in this game. Do I think Alabama has a better roster overall? Yep, I do. They've got home field advantage as well. That's why the upset meter here for me is a 4.5. But that quarterback battle, can Brady Cook keep up with whatever Jalen Milroe looks like? I think it's one of the most fascinating questions in college football this year. How does Jalen Milroe blend with Kalen DeBoer? What does the offense look like? How much better is he as a passer? Because if you look at Michael Penix without DeBoer and Michael Penix with DeBoer and legit receivers and a good offensive line, which is what Alabama's got this year, that was a mighty jump. Jalen Milroe can win the Heisman with Kalen DeBoer as his head coach. That's just a fact. The guy is mega talented and can take a massive step forward because DeBoer has done it before. So I like this Alabama-Missouri game. I'm likely going to be watching it along with all of you. I just expect the Crimson Tide to win. I think it's one where Missouri maybe hangs around early and Alabama enforces their will late and pulls away. If you have other games or matchups that you want me to break down here on the show, by all means, send them in. Going to talk about Liberty coming up next because they might be in the playoff. I also have the greatest comment that I've ever seen. It is one I am holding near and dear to my heart. Coming up next. After we get to Ibotta. Sandals, sunscreen, snacks for the kids. What do these have in common? You're probably buying a ton again this summer, but don't stress about the cost. Use Ibotta, get cash back on all of your purchases to stock up on your summer essentials. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back, which is great every time that you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 a year. Would you like to have that in your pocket? I know I certainly would. It's time you join over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store. Use code LOCKEDONCollege. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at Factor. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Efficiency, baby. We're all about it. No matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage whatever you are looking for. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50. Use code LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code LockedOnCollege50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Check out Factor Meals today. Before I talk Liberty, I just want a little college football Americana here. This is the best comment I've ever seen. This guy listens to or watches the show and gets me on a spiritual level. Brent K. This was in a comments thread about Oregon State, Washington State, big school, small school. He said, quote, "What made college sports so special," tragic, he puts the past tense here, "is that you could have a small school like that, or a small school take on a big school and win. Maybe not win the Natty, but still win a huge, meaningful game." Regular season, through and through. Any school that can get to a point of hosting a playoff game deserves it regardless of size. Sounds like you should be watching the NFL instead if you don't hold these values that made college football or college sports so special. The beauty, the purity of that comment, the desire to just maintain the greatest entity in the history of sports outside of March Madness, and that is the college football regular season. There is no regular season historically that has ever created as much urgency on a week-to-week, game-to-game basis than college football. And the 12-team playoff rips at that. Speaking of a 12-team playoff and hosting a playoff game, does unbeaten Liberty deserve to be in the college football playoff? Just ask yourself that question. Let me pull up their schedule real quick, because it's nothing to bat your eye at. It's not anything that you look at and go, oh wow, they got to play this team, or oh, that's a tough game over there. No, they don't. Here's what I can assure you, for any of you Flames fans listening or watching out there. There is no way, I mean zero way, that they can lose a single game and find their way into the playoff. So they're the second betting favorite amongst the group of 5 to make the college football playoff. They have actually been overtaken in those odds by Boise State, who play a significantly tougher schedule. Boise State plays in the Mountain West, tougher league than Conference USA. They've also got Oregon State on their schedule. They've also got Oregon on their schedule, which is a top 5 team. So at the very least, they're going to test themselves, try and prove what they are capable of against some higher level competition. Those opportunities are not being afforded here to Liberty. Their schedule goes like this. The Campbell Camels. The Camels. Honestly, props for having a unique mascot. Good for you, Campbell. At New Mexico State, that's the hardest game on the schedule. UTEP. East Carolina, well, I mean, at the very least, like, okay, okay. At Appalachian State, that could be the hardest game on the schedule. FIU, at Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, at Middle Tennessee, at UMass, Western Kentucky, and at Sam Houston. So, is that the schedule that makes you go, oh, wow, if they go undefeated there? Yes, certainly. Certainly that's a game, or that's a schedule that deserves to be in the college football playoff. 13-0, that would be the best group of 5 team. Yeah, I'm not in that particular camp. You got to have at least one. You got to have one team on there. When Cincinnati went to one Power 4 team, when Cincinnati went to the college football playoff, who did they beat in addition to going undefeated in the American Conference? Notre Dame. Where did Notre Dame finish that year? Yeah, inside the top 15. That has historically been the formula for a group of 5 teams to get close to the college football playoff. Beat a legitimate Power 4 team, win the rest of your games, and you get into the playoff. You get to be considered. Now, of course, there's an automatic berth process by which they can make their way into this 12-team format. Now, many of you enjoy pointing out in the comment section that Liberty has had teams cancel on them, and they don't want to play Liberty, and they don't have a chance, and you can't blame them for playing the teams on their schedule. I'm not debating the merits of those particular points. I have railed against time and time again on this very show, and will do so until someone does something about it to make me stop losing my mind over this lunacy in the sport that I hold so dear. Scheduling in college football is completely broken. It makes no sense. You give powers to individual schools. You have different standards across different conferences who are competing for the same national championship. There is no uniform standard, no consistency, no logic. There's nothing to it. So if you want to make the point, well, Liberty shouldn't be punished for this, your beef shouldn't be with a playoff committee that looks at 13-0 Liberty and says, no, you got to play higher level competition because the one time you did last year, it went 42-6. And I am fully aware that Tulane beat USC in the Cotton Bowl the year prior. Tulane plays in the American Conference. Much tougher league. I mean, Tulane is out there playing Ole Miss all the time. These two things, they are not the same. In the caliber of schedules, they are not the same. At the group of 5 level, you have the Mountain West and the American are up here in tier 1. A notch below is the Sun Belt. Then you get to Conference USA and the Mid-American Conference. There's a gap. There just is. There just is. And so if you want to be mad at Liberty's schedule and say it's not right that they aren't able to get Power 4 game, it's not fair that they can't do X, Y, and Z, I'm not going to sit here and disagree with you. Because Liberty, operating as a group of 5 school, if I had my college football scheduling world, if that were implemented, guess what? They'd have a Power 4 team on their schedule every single year. And they would have the opportunity to show that they belong at that sort of level. They can play at that sort of level for a given season. But how is the committee supposed to evaluate a team that has played no one that is anywhere close to being a top 25 team or a high-end bowl team or a playoff caliber team? Even if you had a Power 4 opponent, you play them down to the wire. Like, let's just say, in a hypothetical here, Liberty on this year's schedule, instead of playing East Carolina, if they were to play, what's a good team that'd be an example? If they were to play Clemson, and they take them to overtime and lose by a field goal, then they would have a case to be the highest ranked Group of 5 champion because they have proven on the field that they can play with the teams that you're going to go put them up against. But I'm going to be inclined, doesn't mean a 13-0 Liberty can't be there, because I don't know what the rest of the Group of 5 resumes look like, but what I do know is that if you put together a schedule that has no legitimate opponents on it, I have no way to measure how you would fare against those teams. Spencer, that's why I should get the opportunity. But if I've seen other Group of 5 teams like Boise State or Fresno or Tulane or UTSA or Memphis or whoever, if Memphis goes into Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee and plays a top 10, 5-10 Florida State team this year, wherever they end up finishing, and they take them down to the wire, and the debate comes down to Liberty or one-loss Memphis, and that one loss is to Florida State, and they played them tight, I'm going with Memphis. I'm going with Memphis because I know, I saw, okay, when they play a legit team from a legit conference, they're going to compete, because I'm thinking about the fans who are going to watch these games on TV. And I don't want it to be 45-6. I want the games to be as close as possible if we're going to have this ridiculous 12-team playoff. So don't be mad at me. Be mad at the college football world that has allowed for scheduling to just become an abomination to the sport, and is not in a place where it looks like it's going to get any better anytime soon. One day, perhaps. Right now, it's not there. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.